Okay, so this one. Okay, so let's mention a bit quickly. These are very quick slides. They are just to make some introduction on what is whiteboarding. And yes, the idea was to do it on Friday also, but then with the other lecture of presentation skills, there were not much time also to do debugging and everything. So we left this for today. So we will see what is whiteboarding, how it's used, or how it was used currently. I'm not sure nowadays if it's still used exactly like this with a whiteboard, but anyway, it's called whiteboarding still, and how to approach it when you come in front an exercise like this in an interview. So it's called whiteboarding because before in tech interviews, especially when you were doing them face-to-face, which is every time it's less common, especially now that we are many working remotely and maybe you are interviewing for companies that are not on the same place. But before, when you had to go to the company and interview face-to-face, they were giving you some sort of technical assessment to test your knowledge of algorithms and data structures. And instead of doing this on a laptop, you may be required to do this on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper, basically because they don't want you to have the help of VS Code, autocomplete, this red line that shows where the error is, because it's not so much about code that has no error. It's more of demonstrating your thinking process to the team that interviews you. So it's all about the thinking process more than actually the code itself. And so you will be given a problem, you will be given some time, a whiteboard, and you will have some time to work and present the solution. So you will present vocally the solution verbally to the rest of the team. And so even though nowadays maybe the interviews are changed and we don't do them as much as these face-to-face, you may still be asked, even on remote interviews, to use, instead of using a VS Code, like do it in real time. So right now, open a Word document or a text document. So very simple, not open a VS Code, just open a doc so that we are sure still that you don't have this VS Code help. And you just write down your ideas, your code, so you don't really have the tools that we are normally used on working. You cannot just console log everything and test every line of code. It's more about thinking the problem before, organizing first in pseudocode your train of process of thinking, and then present it and try to write some code as well. So this started because, of course, in the early days, computer time was expensive, and many times you had very some slots where you could use the computer, so you couldn't waste time in trying and testing things and thinking in front of a computer. You had to think before, maybe in a piece of paper, write your code, write your ideas, write some simple structure before, and then get in front of a terminal and write and test your code. So even in the 90s, laptops were still a luxury, and you still had limited time in some computer. And so the whiteboards, it was the natural replacement for the piece of paper that was used before. And that's why this practice is still used in some interviews. And as I was saying, it can be used with a real whiteboard, or it can be used replacing it with a doc or a text editor, something that it's simple as a whiteboard. So the process of facing these whiteboarding challenges is, first of all, understanding the problem. You will be given some instructions, and the first thing is to read it again and again, and even restate it or rephrase it in your own words to make sure that you understand it, or even seek affirmation for it. For example, as it says here, so if they say, okay, I want you to build a function that given a number, it will return an array of all the numbers up to that number. So you think about it, you reread it, and then maybe you can rephrase it and say, so just to make sure I understand what you are looking for, you want a function with just one parameter that will be an integer, and then the output, the only output of this function will be an array that will start from number 1 and will end at the input number. Okay, so you put it a bit in your own words, and you are allowed, of course, to ask, is this correct? Is this what you are looking for? Or did I get this wrong, etc. So most problems, especially all that we are going to do now, and most of the problems in these interviews involve writing a function. So since it is a function, you need to have very clear, first, what parameters it should accept, how many and of what type, and what it should return. So it should return a number, an array, a Boolean, true or false, and then create this structure of a function, maybe give some meaningful name to it, and start thinking about how would you proceed with the problem. There are some links here that you can check later. There are some links for preparing and some advices, etc., for coding and interviews. Let me get to the next one. So once you understood the problem and you start thinking about the solution, you can ask follow-up questions and clarification, especially regarding edge cases and test cases. So, for example, am I only going to accept numbers, or can the user maybe enter a string as well? Or should I test for negative numbers? Or maybe they will say it's up to you. So think of all the test cases that you can. Or they can have it more narrow, that no, you will only be, let's say that you only deal with positive numbers. So yes, and clarify what the function is supposed to return, if it returns a Boolean, a string, a number. So here again is example, like, is it possible that the input would be a type other than a number? What should the function do in this case? Should it accept it and try to manipulate it and produce some result? Or should it say not accept it? Or what would you like me to do as an output in this case? And then don't jump directly into writing code for your solution. Even if you think that you know how, or that you are sure that I'm going to read an if case, so just write some if case. First, it's a good practice that we try to use pseudocoding to break down the different steps of our code and try to create some kind of strategy to test your logic. This is also a very good tactic, because it may be a case that you are interviewing for a language that you don't really know. So, for example, you may be interviewing for a Java-related position, and you have not worked a lot with Java. You just have an idea, but you are not very confident in writing code. And you have already explained that, okay, I don't know Java, but still they decided to call you for an interview because they like your profile and because they are sure that having learned one, you can learn the other one easily. And so in this case, it's not that you can easily start writing code in Java. You have to still explain how would you go with the algorithm. So write the pseudocode so that they can see and you can demonstrate your process and your thinking process and your algorithmical thinking. And so this will gain you lots of points, even if you don't really know the language, because they will see that you know how to think in programming. So even if at the end you don't know how to translate this to actual code, still, if your pseudocode looks good, you would have actually earned lots of points. So remember this FizzBuzz, we have done this in some of the exercises at the very beginning, trying to test something. So this is a simple pseudocode that we could do for this function. So the FizzBuzz was the one that was replacing the threes So it was writing numbers from 1 to 100, and the 3 should be replaced with phis. The 5 should be replaced, not the 3, the one that is divisible by 3 should be replaced by phis. The divisible by 5 should be replaced by buzz, and the divisible by both 3 and 5 should be replaced by phis buzz, the word. So that's a very classical interview question, the phis buzz. So here could be some pseudocode. So first, some kind of test, like if n is not a number or not an integer that is bigger than 0. So if it is a negative number, then return null. Okay, and you could have asked, what do you want me to return in this case? If null, or some string saying, please give a positive number. Then I will need to create an empty array to store the output. Because maybe at the question on the problem description, you were asked that this phis-buzz function, it doesn't console log, it just returns an array. So it depends on what the function asks. So if the demand was to create a function that returns an array of all these numbers, so I will need to create an empty array to store the output. Then I will need to have a loop that goes from numbers 1 to n, and if they will have some if, else, so to check all the different cases. Okay, so this looks very similar to normal code, and you could then translate even line by line to real code. And also return the output array here, so make sure that you don't forget to return something. So even if you don't really know how to proceed, or let's say that you forgot how the if syntax exactly is, if you need parentheses or if you need the 3 equals or something, they will still know that, okay, you would think to do this if first, then the other, etc. And then once you have your pseudocode and you feel that you have covered more or less the cases, you can try to actually write the code that should make the input examples that you got and the test that you have thought pass. So if you forget some syntax or method name, it could be the case that you could ask for this information. So for example, I know that I have to use a reduce function here, but I don't remember exactly how the syntax is. Can I check it, or could you give it to me? Or if not, okay, I will put something down as more or less as I remember it. And the other thing, this is especially if you are doing the interview live, so it is live coding and you have to create your solution live, is to be very verbal and talk out loud and explain what you are doing. So because the whole point is to understand your thought process. So that now I will be doing this, and now I think I will test this, and I'm going to write this if else case for this. And if you can, if you have the possibility, and if it helps, you can try to test the code. But maybe sometimes you're not given this option. You could also attempt to comment on algorithmic complexity. So to say if this can be done in some more intelligent way, that this algorithm has a complexity of n squared. I don't remember now if we have checked complexity, algorithm complexity. I don't know if we have done it in some lecture of these extra ones. Maybe if not, it's coming in some flash lecture later. And then, of course, you could try to refactor. So if you have extra time, you can have a first solution, and then maybe you think that, okay, this I could change to that other one, and you can refactor for cleaner code. Leave the refactoring for the end, only if you have time. And you could also, even if you don't have time to do it, you could point out that, okay, this is a quick solution. This is what I first thought, but I think I could replace this for loop with some map function, using the map method. I think it could work nice here. So maybe in a version 2, if I could have the time to refactor, I would try to use this. So all of these communication scores points for you, and it's easier if you are articulate and they see how you explain your work, because at the end you will be part of a team. You will have to code and explain your code to the others. So this is a very important part of the interview. So the idea of the exercise that we are going to do here in CodeUp is that we will take turns, and you will be each time different person, like solving the exercise out loud and live for the rest. You have time to check before, so it's not as stressful because you will have time to work on it before, but then present it and explain what you have thought and your solution. And it's to emulate a bit this experience of an interview, but in a more friendly environment and without the stress of an interview, to make you step outside of your comfort zone and talk and out loud to the others, and thinking especially that the rest of the team are also non-experts and they're not going to judge you. It helps to get started. And it's meant to be more enjoyable, challenging, and fun than in a real interview, which could be a very stressful experience. So we will be using these code words and taking turns. There are other also platforms. HackerRank is one of them. I don't know if the Hacker one is more difficult. I have to check, but we will start with a code word because they have a lot and of different variety. And then you can also check others later after the bootcamp to prepare for your interviews. Okay, there are many platforms out there with coding challenges. And that's it from the whiteboarding. Questions? How does it seem?
In your personal professional experience, how has it differed, like with interviews, with whiteboarding, and kind of just all that?
So I have not done many coding interviews because at the beginning on my many years, I had been working more as a project manager. So there were other type of interviews that did not involve as much as technical coding. And then the ones that I did the later years, they were not live. So they were not there in the place of the company, and it was not with a whiteboard. So I was given some code that I had to write, some tests, some examples that I had to do before, and I had to send in, let's say, 3 hours. So you have 3 hours to complete this. And of course, you could have checked code online if you wanted, because no one is watching you. So it's not done in live format. And that's the experience I had. But I know that it differs a lot from company to another. And most of the times it was like that for me, so that you have it in advance, you were given an hour, and you had to send something back. They were normally quite hard, the problems. So in 1 hour, you didn't really have time even to search on Google. So, you could search, but then you are wasting time. And so it was not as easy as to find something on Stack Overflow and copy and try to refactor it a bit. And you didn't have that much time either to refactor or to do a lot of tests. So barely you managed to put the solution together and send something back in an hour. And so, but yes, it's fun also. So it's a way to test your limits, like running, and yes, it was not bad. Didn't have any bad experience so far. Did you manage to do the code challenge, these X's and O's? Anyone tried it? Anyone wants to present the first one?
I started, but I got distracted by the project that we're supposed to do. I didn't manage. Yeah, I didn't manage to solve it. It keeps giving errors, but it's quite humbling doing it without. Yeah, I find it quite tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was interesting, like using that different sort of like thinking about the projects versus doing this type of challenge is a different way of thinking. It felt different. So it was kind of challenging and interesting to revisit that. but like figuring it out, it was like, yay, it kind of felt successful also. Like, okay, I haven't forgotten everything. Like I can do stuff like this too, you know?
Yes. Yes, I like these exercises because it's very pure JavaScript, no frameworks, React, and all these. I like connect things and servers, and it's very only algorithms. And it's nice that we don't forget about this, because at the end, this is the basis for all the other things that we do as well. And also they give you this satisfaction of like small victories. So they're nice. And you have seen, at least, I mean, the environment, how this code works, so that you have here the instructions, you have some examples of what is the expected output with different inputs. And also here you have some test cases that are like sample test, but then internally when you submit your solution, they run also more tests than this. And so then at the end you get a result of if you have passed or not the test, etc. And I think here you can also add your own test if you feel there is some other thing that you want to try, extra thing to see if your code passes this. So if you want, since this is the first one, instead like of you showing and coding, because we could also do it like live. So like take this now and just start from zero and, but I don't know, you could copy also on the chat the solution that you have, some of you, if the one that you did, and I can try to put here together some ideas of the different solutions, being the first one. Okay, so let me see some solutions on chat. And I will ask you to comment them. Where is this? Okay. So let me take this one. I think. I don't know if this is too small. Can I make this a bit bigger? Yeah. Okay, so you want to try to explain us your ideas, Crystal? I think this is your code,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so I tried to do this just from my brain, and I did it mostly that way. I had some trouble, not trouble, but initially figuring out where to put the to lowercase method, but it seemed to work where it is here. So I started by, since I thought that we were looking for X's and O's and comparing those two things to make two sort of variables, so A and B as empty arrays. And then I thought to loop through the string in with that for loop. And then if the character was an X, then to put it in the A array. And then if it was an O, to put it in the B array. If it was anything else, it would have just been left in the original string. And then to compare the length of those two arrays, so the if A length equals the B length, then return true. And if they're not the same, then to return false. So nice. That works. Yeah.
Okay, so we have our bigger string, and we will create from that string two arrays. And the main purpose is to compare the length of the two arrays to has an indicator of if the X and O's are the same. And so for that, yes, so you are looping through it and you transform it to lowercase and you use it, you push it to this. Okay. So did it come natural, or you had to try different things, or this was the first solution that you tried?
This was mostly the way I did it initially. As I mentioned, I initially put the to lowercase. I can't remember where, but it wasn't in the right spot, so it came up with some kind of error. But then I moved it here, and then it worked. So this was kind of the first go at it. But I wrote it on paper first, and then kind of put it into the thing. Yeah.
Okay. Let's check if we have. Look, so what other differences we have Yes, because there are more solutions. So let's put here solution 2. So this is yours, Jacqueline, if you want also to comment on what you try to do.
Mine's really similar to Crystal's, except instead of using an array, I just set up 2 variables and initialize them to 0, and then it looped through the string and increased the count by 1 each time.
So instead of an array, you use the 2 counters, and yet at the end you compare the 2 counters if they are the same. So that means that you have the same amount of O's and X. And yes, that's I was going to say that before, but then I thought maybe someone else have done this already. So that you can also, instead of using an array and pushing things there, you can also just use a counter in the same way, and just increment the counter. And nice. So here we also have it like this. You could even, if you want, return directly this. So either here in your solution, Crystal, or in your solution, Jacqueline. So this, it's going to return what this condition evaluates to. So it's already going to be either true or false. So it's going to check if the 2 are the same, and it's already automatically will return true if it's true, false if it's false. So just a small like refactoring touch that we could do either here or here. So again, here you could say return A length equals B length. So not equals, the 3 equals. So if A length equals B length, it will return true, or if not, it will return false. It allows you to like skip one if else from the solution to make it a bit shorter. We can also see like unfinished solutions, don't worry. So even if it's not finished, we can check like what you have thought or some pseudocode. Okay. So
mine is wrong.
So let me put here solution 3 and put some I think, and here return result, right? So what you were trying to do?
So I thought in terms of, yeah, the length, it's similar to kind of the array of how many X's and O they need to be equal, and if there's no, then it's also a 0. So I connected like the number of the X's and O's to a Boolean. So I thought, okay, first convert to lowercase and then get an array that has stores all the X's and O's, and the length of that then will return an equal or an unequal number that can then kind of be, if you then apply the, what's the percentage thingy called again?
This modulo.
Yeah,
yes,
just the modulo. If you apply the modulo, that will then return a 0 or a 1, and that can be converted to like a true or a false, but it didn't really work. And I think it's overcomplicating it as well.
No. So I like how it was going. So you transform the string to lowercase, and you use this new string.
Yeah.
And then you transform this string, that it's a string, to an array.
Yeah.
Right here, so that you can use the filter method. Did this work? I don't know, the spread operator with a string. I don't know if it spreads the character or if you need to use split.
It did work, I think.
Okay. Okay, if not, you can just split also the character. So the idea is from the string to create an array of the different elements of the string, and filter only and keep only the X and O's.
Yeah.
And then if this array is, so if the length of this array is even, then you would consider that it has the same amount of X and O's.
Yeah.
Okay. I like how it was going, yes. But what if you have only O's that are like an even number of O's and no X. Like, so 4 O's.
Ah, I didn't think of that.
Yes, because that then it will be even, but without being even because of the 2.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I didn't think of that.
Yes. Okay,
feel-
but it's nice also that you did this, transform to array and try to use the filter method for this. And also it was a different solution. Okay. More, anyone else tried things or wrote down something? Something different, or did you check later after that? Did you check the solutions that they are given from the rest of the teams? So let me try some of those. We could comment. Can I comment like this? No. Let me comment. So just to run it. So the first one, and then in case you didn't do this, when you want to submit it, so you can first test it. Where are the buttons? Here. Okay, here. Test, and it runs some tests and checks if all the test cases are passing, and then you can submit it by clicking on attempt, and then you submit the solution. And you can also see solutions by other users. You can, I think if you have not submitted anything at the beginning, it's like locked so that you cannot cheat, but you can unlock it if you want. And if not, after you submit your solution, you can see from others. So one other way to do this would be to transform this to array, because arrays, we have so many methods for arrays, same as you were trying to do here, Mele. So I'm just going to write like a solution for here. And actually comment the first one as well. And I will put it bigger like this. Or I'll put it on the top, just so that it's easier to see. So first we want to transform the string to an array. And let's say, let the array, and to transform the string to an array, we could use also the split of the split method, because then it will split. It depends on what character you will pass. It will split the string based on this character. But if you don't pass anything, you pass it like an empty string, then it will just split the string to its letter. So this would give us an array of, let's say, X, O, maybe some other letter, maybe another O, and maybe let's take this test case, X. So this would create an array like this. And we could also put here the 2 lowercase, so that we have this already done. So first we transform the string to lowercase, and then we split it so that we create the array from it. And then from this array, we could use, so since it's an array, we have a bit more methods to use. We could use this higher order function. So we could use this filter that you were trying to use here, Mele. So, but instead of filtering both X and O's, we could just say, let X and try to filter only the X, and let O's and try to filter the O's. So this would create, the filter creates a new array. So we take this array that we have as an input. Let's imagine that this was our input. And then we would get the X and X here. And in this case, we would take an O and O array. So it would just keep the O's, or it would just keep the X. And then the same as you were doing here, Crystal, you could check if the two lengths of these two filtered arrays are the same. So with an if case, or else just return X length equals O length. So if the two lengths, no, not with parentheses, always do it like this. If the two lengths of the two arrays are the same, it should return true, and if not, it should return false. So this is a bit of checking bits from different ones, but yes, many times working with arrays, it's also easier. So transform the string, I should have added some more comments. So filter out or keep filter array, keep only the X, and then here filter array, keep only the zeros, the O's, and then compare the lengths of the two arrays and return true or false. Add some comments, and then you could also try to refactor to make it in one line, to skip some things, but like first solution, second, etc. Nice. So this one was not I think it's from the easy ones. They depends on this number here. So this 7 that it says here, 7KYU, don't know exactly how the metric works, but the bigger the number, the easiest the solution. So the ones that are marked like with 2 or 3 or 4, they are a bit more difficult. So the 7, 8, etc. are the easier ones. So this was one of the easy ones. Did the rest try it, or you didn't have time, or you tried but you leave it at the middle?
I didn't have time, but I hope so today.
Okay, for the next one. Okay. Did you try it, Charlene?
I tried it last Friday, but then we started the presentation, so I didn't have time.
Okay. And Gavi?
Yeah, I tried it, but it didn't really work. So I checked it on Stack Overflow. I'm sorry, because I was interested in the solution.
Can you check it? Can you check the solutions and from here, until you have something?
Yeah, so I actually wrote down now 5 options, or like 5 variations, sorry, and then yeah. And it's interesting to see the differences, but I couldn't do it alone because for me, I'm still lost a bit with the basics. So I need to catch up.
So this one, for example, this vowel count is the next one that I will be doing. I think now if I check solutions, solutions have been withheld, but I could click this and just see the solution. But I think then forfeit eligibility, I think it means that you will forfeit your eligibility to earn honor rank progress for this kata. So it will not be, yes, it will not be written down as my progress, but I could still see them or try them if I want to, just out of curiosity to see something. Let me pass you this one on the resources, because this will be the next one that we will be doing. The vowel count. And so I'm going to come back to this just in a moment. Did you try it, Rebecca?
I missed Friday and I didn't know we had homework.
Okay.
I'll do this next one.
Feels
Sorry.
like school, right? No, I
Yes.
didn't know we have homework.
Yeah, you said homework, and
Okay.
I was like,
Don't worry. That's true. That's true. Yes, that you were not on Friday there. And I think also, Luis, you were also not there on Friday, but I don't know if you knew that we had this.
Yeah, sorry, I did do it. It was a similar solution to Crystal's and everybody else's earlier. So
Okay. Okay, nice. But you managed and you submitted and it was working.
yes, it was working.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the next one that we have is this one, the vowel count. It says return the number count of vowels in a given string. So probably that means that you have a string as an input and you have to count the vowels, but be careful because we only consider A, E, I, O, U, but not Y. So this, we don't consider this as a vowel. It doesn't change much. So we would just have to check for one more, but in any case, for this and for the test to run properly, we don't consider Y. And the input string will only consist of lowercase letters and or spaces. So then you don't have to test for inputs being numbers or other types of inputs, and don't really need to transform to lowercase because it will already be in lowercase. So if you check this, you will see some text here. So it should return 5, for example, for this abracadabra, because it has 5 A's. And so it counts how many vowels you have, get count abracadabra, and it should return 5. So it doesn't count the vowels, but we don't have to specifically say that we have like 3A and 2 I's and 0 O. So it's not that we have to categorize and say how many we have, just count them, as you see also from the test case, and check this. Okay, I leave this as a homework for the next time, and next time we will just see it in a similar way as today. Maybe just one explain from 0 how it will start, how we think about it, etc. And let's go back to our projects then.
Quick question on code
Yes.
word. Is there a way to like remember on there how to, or which one we've started? Because I'm not so sure how to get that to start it or bookmark it.
Code words. So to see. So here to see which ones you have started, let me see, because I know if I go to my profile, I think here, solutions, I can see the ones that I have like completed and are here unfinished. So you have here also some that you may have like a draft. So on your profile. Should be, I should try to like start one and not finish it and see if it shows here, but probably it will.
Joy mentioned it connects to GitHub. If we connected it to our account, does it automatically connect that like to the repository, or she mentioned something of the sort?
It uses your GitHub, you can use your GitHub profile to log in, but then it's not that it takes anything from repositories. I don't know, apart from using the login from GitHub as a login process. I don't know what other things it does with GitHub. It just connects, yes, connects your profile to GitHub. So also like if you want to send to someone like that this is my CodeWars profile and I have solved this in this case, then also she will be able to link to and see the rest of your projects that you have on GitHub there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see also on the core stand-up. As we have said, every morning we will be writing down a couple of lines of how we are currently with the projects, have checked quickly how you are doing. And now we will go through each one of you for seeing concrete things. So, but I don't know, if you want, we can share. Let me stop the recording.